You ready?
Yeah.
Rolling? Welcome back to another video. You're watching Choose Legend. My name is Dave, and by request, I am doing a video on how to change the magazine release button on a Glock 43X for an aftermarket Shield Arms mag release. The reason being for using this mag release is the standard Glock magazines, the 10 rounds, have a polymer outside casing. And you can go ahead and use your factory mag release with the Shield Arms, but from what I understand online, there has been concerns about the Shield Arms metal magazines kind of marring up this polymer magazine, or the polymer magazine release a little bit. So to avoid that, Shield Arms came out with this nifty little all metal magazine release, which works phenomenal with these Shield Arms mags. Now, they are a little bit laggy with the factory Glock magazines since it is metal on polymer now. You can see I've ejected it, but it doesn't fall out. Now, it unlocks it so you can pull it out, but if you are carrying a spare magazine that is polymer and you're using a Shield Arms mag release, I recommend this as your backup magazine so that if you do need to reload in a quick situation, you can drop that and get that next one in. All right, that being said, I am going to show you what tools you need to do this and how you are going to get the factory magazine release out and get the new one in. For sake of ease, I am going to remove the aftermarket one and then put it back in so you can see exactly how it works. It works exactly the same way with removing the factory Glock magazine release. So a couple of things you might find handy is a little set of needle nose pliers. These aren't exactly needle nose, but if you have something along the lines of this, it will work. This is a Pittsburgh tool from Harbor Freight, just cheap, little chintzy pliers that are good for working in tight environments. Obviously make sure your gun is completely unloaded. Safety first. Pick tools, also from Harbor Freight. Came in this little kind of gray box set here. I got some Torx bits and some flathead Phillips, but there's also 4 pick tools that came in the other side. They come in a variety in shapes and curves and different ways, but they are great for working leverage in small environments. If you don't have a pick tool, you could probably get away with using a small flathead screwdriver or something similar to that, but pick tools, in my opinion, are so handy it's worth having a set around just because you get that leverage in certain directions that you need. So basically how this works is there is a tension rod. Well, first let's go ahead and get the slide removed. If you don't know how to do that, I'm sure there's hundreds of videos on YouTube on how that works, but just to go over it quickly, you're going to pull back tension on the slide, and there's these little notches on both sides of the gun. You're going to go with your thumb and index finger and pull down on that, and you can let go now, holding down on both of those tabs. You're going to obviously make sure the gun is unloaded first. You're going to go ahead and pull the trigger, and you'll see that slide is now come free. That whole thing comes off, set that aside, we're done with that for now. Now, there is a little tension rod inside the front of the grip here that faces straight up and down. And the way it works as a spring for this magazine release. So essentially your tension rod is straight up and down, and it fits into a groove on your magazine release here. So that tension rod acts as a spring. When you go to push it from one side to the other, it adds more tension on that rod because the base is seated straight up and down, and as you push at the top, the rod bends to one side. That gives you the torque to push it back when you need to load the next magazine in. So essentially keep that in mind. You're just working off of a little piece of steel here. The idea is to get that little piece of steel unhooked from this groove here and in front, so sitting on the front of your magazine release. And then from there you can get your needle nose pliers on that and pull it straight out, and then your magazine release is free to slide all the way out the opposite side of the gun. With that said, let's go ahead and show you close up. And lighting is tough on this, so don't judge me too critically, but you should be able to see what we're doing here and how this works. I know this is going to be very hard to see, but essentially what I'm doing is I'm going to push the mag release so that I put a lot of tension on that spring in that direction. I'm going to get my pick tool in there to hold the spring in that direction and release it and try and leverage that spring. If you look at the point of my pick tool, leverage it this direction and out. Out meaning back towards the butt of the gun. That way it's going to bring that spring out of that notch right there on the other side and release it free and get the spring basically behind the mag release. So here I go. You're probably going to lose it because the lighting is very difficult here. So I push the mag release back, and now I've popped that spring out in front. You can see that there. Essentially take your needle nose pliers, and these aren't exactly needle nose, but if you have something a little longer and a little thinner, that'd be better. If you can get on top of that spring, I don't know if you can see that, and then just pull straight up, and there is that tension rod. So now your mag release can come all the way out. So here is the aftermarket one from Shield Arms. You can see here's the bottom where that tensioner spring was. So essentially it was locked in place here with tension on it in this direction. We pushed on it, used our pick tool to hold it in this position, and brought this back so we could get that to come free. Here's the factory one from Glock. And you can see when using a pick tool, you might get a little bit of marring on your polymer here. It's all internal work, so I'm not really worried about aesthetics. But in my experience, little pick tools like this or this work excellent for the leverage that you need to get down in there on the inner workings of everything. So Glock has set this up nicely for, I mean, depending on what hand you are, you have your choice of right or left hand mag releases. So if you don't want to put it in the way it comes factory from Glock like this, you can actually turn this around. And if you look at the channel in here, where that tension rod goes, I'll get my pointer here, that channel down in here, I can't see what I'm doing. This channel down in here actually goes both ways. So if you're right or left-handed, you can switch that mag release button to either side of the gun. That being said, let's go ahead and get this back in here. Okay, I'm holding that in place with my fingers. I can push this way and it stops there. What I'm going to do is kind of at an angle, come down into the gun like this and push that tension rod back in there. Now, it doesn't just sit and rest in there. You actually have to kind of push it and you'll feel it sink down, I don't know, maybe 3 centimeters or so. So it really seats into the polymer there. So holding it here, go down and push that. So there it goes. I just felt it seat. So now it's all the way down there. I don't know from this angle if you can see it, but if the lighting is right, you can see now that the top of that rod is seated right kind of parallel with the top of that indent there. Okay. So now I'm going to take this and just push that rod over. A little bit more leverage, and this is where you might get a little bit of marring. I'm gonna have to come up from the bottom, so y'all might have to sacrifice a little lighting for this. So now I'm gonna leverage that, and you heard it snap in. Hit that in light.
Yeah, I can see that.
So now that it's snapped in, you can test it by pushing on the thumb release here, and you should feel that tension. So now that that's in, keep in mind that you might have to give this a little tug. So I would say keep this as your primary so that if you are ejecting, you can eject and quickly get the next one in there. That way there's no lag on your reload. So this video was done by request from BJ Barraza. He said, hey man, if you have time, can you do a quick video on how to install the aluminum magazine release? Quick correction on that. I know I probably said it in the video. I just figured out in messing with this, I have a magnet here, that it is not aluminum because my magnet sticks to it. So anyone who is gonna hate on me for that in the comments, you don't have to now. So it is, I'm guessing, some sort of steel, but everything's back together. Like I said, the polymer magazine's a little laggy, but it still works just fine. Shield Arms magazines, in and out, no issues at all. So BJ, thank you so much for commenting and requesting a video. I am happy to answer any questions that you guys have. I am not an armorer. I am not a professional. I am just a hobbyist, and I like to know how my equipment works. So go ahead and learn how to take apart, clean, maintain your weapons. They're extremely important to have working when you need them. So with that said, thank you all so much for watching. I put out videos every Saturday. This one's coming out midweek because it was by request. And if you like what you see here and you want to know more or request more or just enjoy the hunting, fishing, kind of outdoorsy lifestyle, please consider subscribing. Again, thank you for watching. I love you guys. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you this Saturday morning.